Hi there, I'm Scott, and this is GreatScott Knitting Vlogtober Day 13. I said it that way just for those that may have some tridecaphobia, so we're not going to say that other word. My dogs are, of course, playing in here because they don't want to play anywhere else. And, of course, it is Clue 2 Day. So the second week of the Westknits Mystery Knit Along Twists and Turns Shawl. Last week, we had Clue 1 drop. It was a bombshell of a clue because it set a pace for this shawl in terms of inventiveness and interest and texture and contrast that was amazing. I was absolutely thrilled with the start of the shawl. Clue 2. The clue video is an hour and 21 minutes long. Exactly, that's how I feel about it. An hour and 21 minutes long. I was going to do a reaction video to Clue 2. And no, that's not going to happen. But I will tell you my reaction to the very first part because I haven't watched the whole tutorial video yet. So I don't know what happens after this first section. So, spoilers. Not that I'm going to show much right now because there's not much to do yet. It's only been out since this morning, and here it is about 6 o'clock in the evening, 6:30 in the evening, actually. So it starts off. So for those of you who predicted wings going off from this original section, you win. Yes, there are wings that are happening to either side of what we knit last week in Clue 1. So that's interesting. The wings are starting off with the main color and then striping in the contrast color, which is fun. We knew the contrast. I think he had kind of predicted or projected that the contrast color was gonna come into play this week. And so, yes, indeed it has. And I have been saying, and again, spoilers, for those of you who haven't watched or don't want to keep up, you might want to kind of hold off and maybe fast forward a little bit. Because I'm going to talk about my prediction for the shawl was that it was going to include twisted stitches. And so I am correct in my assumption that this shawl would include twisted stitches. And I don't think someone who's knit more of his shawls, especially the mystery knit along shawls, please correct me if I am wrong, but I don't believe he's ever included twisted stitches in his design patterns. So we now have a twisted stitch section within these wings that are coming off to the side. So, excuse me, that is as far as I've gotten in this hour and 21 minutes, is probably about 20 minutes into the video. So I've got about an hour left to go on what's clearly more is happening in this clue than just the wings. I just don't know. And supposedly, because he projected last week that we'd be using the cable needle in this week's clue, and so I have not yet seen how that comes into play. So what my plan is, before I continue on with the video, is to actually knit these first sections of the clue and then dive into whatever happens after this. So for right now, I have a start to one of the wings that is happening. And so again, spoilers, turn away for this, because I am actually going to show you what progress I've made since the beginning of the day on this clue. So again, if we're saying that this is the top section where we cast on, and that this is the bottom section where we cast off, bound off, then our wings are going to go off to the side here. So here's where we're at. You've seen a little bit of it. So here's where we're at with this clue is, and it also kind of will give you what my contrasts are looking like. So here we're at, here's where we're at so far. I have one of those wedges done with one of those stripes. And so it's going to be interesting. This short rows, again, anybody who predicted short rows, you are correct. I have never closed short row gaps the way he instructed. It is simple and elegant in that, especially with garter stitch, it disappears. But I do want to give you a close-up and see if it'll focus on those twisted stitches. And it really doesn't want to do that. Anyway, so there we are. That's the beginning of clue 2 for me. Again, blue and yellow. You can't go wrong with blue and yellow. So I'm really excited about that pop of craziness. Now, where does it go from here in the last half of the clue? When I get to it, I will talk about it. But for now, I have some knitting to do because this grows out to a little bit to one side, and then it has to grow out to this other side as well. So this one picks up here, casts on across there, and then it picks up here. You pick up stitches across, and then flare it out in this direction. So there we are. There we have it. A little bit more straightforward knitting this time, at least in the first half of the clue. It's just more just garter stitch, just knitting back and forth. So not as fiddly. So it should go a little faster in terms of being able to just, crank it out. In theory, we'll see if that actually happens. It does look like quite a good chunk of knitting for this clue. I just don't remember. Last year, I guess, maybe, I don't know. Each clue seemed to be rather substantial. So, again, for those of you who are just finishing up clue 1 or maybe haven't finished clue 1, no big deal. Guess what? The clues don't disappear if you don't finish them in the week that they're given. It doesn't, it's like, if you don't finish it, the clue will self-destruct. No. So once it's out there, take your time, do it the way, enjoy the process. Because if you're not enjoying the process, why are you doing it? So just enjoy knitting what you're working on in the moment, and it'll get done. Exactly. You know what? It'll get done. So embrace your own pace, as Stephen would say. Enjoy the process of knitting. Knitting is a joy. So just be in that moment of enjoying it. Let's see. There's some one of, I'm I'm just like all over the place in my brain right now. I'm ending my day, which was very busy, and of course, when I get energized, my brain just goes. And oh man, okay. So did anybody else talk about distractions? Did anybody else giggle around all of the different sound effects that Stephen added to his knitting? I found that really fun and playful and interesting. Is that so many times he would express some additional sound effects to go with his knitting. Luckily, we do not have to make those same sounds as we are doing these things, because I don't know that I could mimic them. It would take probably more practice for me to do that. But yeah, so there we have it. I'm babbling at this point, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop, get back to my knitting. Maybe my knitting will help center my brain a little bit, and I'll come back on when I have made some significant progress. There's something to show. All right. Hi there. So we are into day 14 of Vlogtober. Weekend coming up here, mid-month of October. Man, October is just flying by. Man, I'm just realizing it is like tomorrow's the 15th. It is the middle of the month already. So much yet to happen in October, though. So yesterday, Clue 2 dropped of the Mystery Knit Along. We just kind of talked a little bit about that. So I've received several comments, seen several comments on my videos here. I've seen comments on other social media sites about people fearing that they're not keeping up and that they won't be done by the time the second clue drops. So if you weren't done by yesterday, no, you weren't. But big deal. Again, it's an arbitrary pressure that we're putting on ourselves around completing by a particular point in time. Now, when you have goals, it is important to define a deadline by which you want to achieve a major goal. But if it is an important goal, and one could say this is an important goal for some of us, then you make adjustments to meet the goal. One thing I've seen as sort of a meme or a quote or a motivation is, if you've set a goal and you haven't met it, and the goal is worthy, don't change the goal, change your methods, change your approach to reaching that goal. Not that you failed, it's just maybe the approach you took to reach that goal isn't working for you right now. Don't change the goal. Don't drop the goal. Change the method. Be more realistic about the deadline. So, unless it is extremely important for you to complete each clue in the week that you're given that clue so that you're starting fresh for the new clue, unless that's extremely important to you, don't sweat it. Oftentimes we let exterior forces put pressure on us to be certain ways, to act in certain fashions, to create, in a sense, create our goals for us. And I think there might be an aspect of, because a clue drops every week, we feel this outside pressure to perform and and complete something before the next piece of instruction comes along. And I can guarantee you, there is no requirement out there. There are no, as many people have said, there are no knitting police going to come along and tell you, hey, you didn't get done, so I'm taking away your yarn and needles. No. I want to play something for you, which I think applies, and it's a very, it has nothing to do with knitting specifically. But it does have to do with this. It is the idea of not letting outside forces define your measurements of success, to define your measurements of joy, of beauty, of significance. This comes from an interview with Emmanuel Acho. Emmanuel Acho is a former football player turned commentator, who also has written a couple of books and has a podcast of his own called Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. And this book that this interview is really around is called Illogical, where he discusses and talks about his approach to goals and his approach to being able to be successful. And within this interview, he says, where he talks about some of the information that's in his book, there's this very interesting section that I want to play for you, that I think I found it extremely impactful. And I'm also going to link the entire interview down below. It is from a podcast called On Leadership with Scott Miller. It is a weekly podcast produced by Franklin Covey. But this particular interview I found very impactful, and there's a lot of great stuff in it. And this is one that I just find really, really insightful and important. And I'm really going to be interested to see what you all think about this clip that I'm going to play for you.
I want to read a passage from your book about that topic. Stop letting your beauty, your happiness, or your worth be dependent upon the convention of time. You are valuable, worthy, and beautiful. We all are. We just have to assess ourselves based on the metrics that matter most, our own. Once you realize that your standards are the only ones by which you should measure anything, then you can take full agency of your life. You can take the power back from society, which took it from you at birth.
Let me add to that. Later on in that chapter, I say, stop letting insignificant people have such significance in your life. We had a depiction of beauty from the 1400s to the 1700s. The depiction of beauty from the 1400s to the 1700s, the idealization of beauty: fair skin, a larger forehead; pale skin, a larger forehead; dark hair, and relatively full figure. Think about this for a second. The Mona Lisa, which I have witnessed firsthand, the tremendous line to look at the Mona Lisa, is a picture of a pale woman with dark hair and a relatively large forehead. Why? Because at the point in time in which that was painted, that was the depiction of beauty. Well, then, several hundreds years later, the depiction of beauty is now a tan individual with blonde hair and a super unattainable skinny waist and a busty chest. See, we all try to chase the constantly evasive definitions of beauty, and I'm simply talking about beauty. Imagine dressing standards. If you go back and look at how we used to dress, super baggy suits were in, but now super tailored European style suits are in. Why are we talking about beauty and suits? for this reason. We let other people's definitions of beauty, other people's definitions of success, other people's definitions of significance dictate our own metrics of beauty, success, and significance. We ultimately let insignificant people play significant roles in our lives. The only metric by which we should measure success is our own metric.
So the only metric by which we should measure success is our own metric. I think it's extremely impactful and important to think about for your process of knitting this project, any project. You get to define what it means to be successful on a project. You get to define when it has to be done. So don't let these pressures of me or anybody else that might finish the clue before the next clue drops be a means by which you measure whether you're being successful or not. Are you enjoying the project? Are you learning something? Do you like where it's going? Are you interested in and excited about, what the next potential aspect of this shawl might be? I mean, that's the joy of this mystery knit along, is embracing the unknown, challenging yourself with new and exciting techniques, and learning something from a master knitwear designer and teacher of knitting. To me, that's what this is about. In terms of success and being and feeling accomplished, is finding that joy in this process. So don't let anybody else pressure you into thinking that you're behind, because you're not, unless you say you are. So stop putting additional pressure on yourself to finish the clue. Enjoy the process. That's what's important. So I haven't, in terms of enjoying the process, I haven't made much additional progress. I have made a little bit. I will do a show and share here. So again, spoilers, don't look if you don't want to know. But here's where I am with the first wing that we've got going on. So not very much further, but there it is. It's really kind of cool, very interesting. So that's coming along. With that, I think I'll go ahead and end up today. We'll package this up, get it into up online. And I hope you enjoyed that little clip. And again, let me know your thoughts and what impacted you about that clip from Emmanuel Acho. It's one of my favorites. And again, I will link the entire video down below. Please go give it a watch. It's really, really interesting. So it's the weekend. Shabbat Shalom. And may you have peace in your home and the fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Bye.